Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rana Ravi from Committee on MSME and Startup. I would like to welcome our speaker, CA Padmaja Parange ma'am, and our coordinator Ravi Kumar sir for today's Parthala series. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, sir. Respected Chairman Sri Gyansan Mishra ji, Vice Chairman Sri Arpit Kabra ji, our distinguished speaker Sri Padmaji Parange ji, and all the participants joining us virtually today. A very good afternoon to you all. So, to give a brief background of myself, I am Sri Ravi Kumar, qualified 2019. So, I'm doing practice in FAMA in US, UAE, and Singapore taxation. And it's my privilege to welcome each one of you to this edition of MSME Parshala Series 2.0, organized by Committee of MSME and Startup ICI. I hope everyone is keeping well and safe, and I thank you all taking out of your time of busy schedule to join the webinar. As you know, MSME sector is a vital pillar of the Indian economy, providing employment, driving innovations, and contributing significantly to GDP. To further empower professionals working with MSMEs and startups, ICI has been conducting this series to build capacity and share practical knowledge on emerging topics relevant to the sector. Today's topic is very relevant in our day-to-day life. So it's this importance of equity fundraising options and understanding of external credit rating. It's very huge time that we need to understand this. In current dynamic funding ecosystem, MSME and startup often need guidance in assessing equity capital while also navigating credit rating and related compliances. A thorough understanding of these elements can help these enterprises attract funding, strengthen their financial position, achieve sustainable growth. So today's every MSM is seeking for IPOs, so it will lead to a huge growth in their financial aspect. Further, it's give a great pleasure to introduce our speaker for today's webinar, Sri Padmaji Prangeji. Sri Padmaji is a highly accomplished chartered accountant with impressive 27 years of experience over stat audit, banking, rating agencies, advisory services. She is also a IICA certified ESG professional and IICA certified independent director. Currently, she is a co-founder and partner in Sustain as ESG LLP, where she leads initiative on ESG framework, sustainability reporting, and operationalizing ESG strategy. She is also a partner of S&P Core Advisor LLP, which is engaged in providing fundraising, rating assistance, IPO advisory, and CFO services. Her vast experience and exposure, including senior role at institutions like Snehal Bank, Dhanlaxmi Bank, Care Rating, and Exim Bank of India, where she contributed immensely to credit sanctioning, risk management, stat compliances, portfolio management across diversified industries. Her in-depth knowledge and extensive experience make her exceptionally suited to guide us on today's topic. We are truly honored to have her with us. I am sure her insight will be highly valuable to all the participants. Before I hand over to our speaker, I would like to thank the entire committee of MSME and Startup ICI for their hard work in creating these knowledge sessions. I also request participants to make this session more interactive by posting their questions and comments on the webinar panel. With these words, I am delighted to invite Sri Padmaji Parangeji to take us forward with her expert session. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, CA Ravi Kumar, for the humble introduction. So, good afternoon, everyone. Am I audible?
Yeah, ma'am, you are clearly audible.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Yeah, it is clear. Fine.
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so the topic for today's session. In case if I'm not audible, please let me know.
No, ma'am, you
Sure,
are
ma'am.
clearly audible.
Yeah. So the topic for today's session is importance of pitch deck. This is primarily for the startups. What are the types of fundraising? Again, focused for startups and external credit rating for MSME. So we are going to cover two areas. One is startups and also MSMEs. I will take up the question and answer session towards the end of my presentation. I will split the presentation into two parts. One will be for the startup and the next would be for the MSME topic. And there would be a 5 minutes break in between. During the presentation, I would be giving real life examples, however, not disclosing the names. So let's start. So the agenda for today's topic, we will be covering these areas. Now in startup, importance of pitch deck. So first is, what is the meaning of pitch deck? What is the importance of pitch deck? What are the key elements to include in a pitch deck? What are the tips for an effective pitch deck? And what are the opportunities here for CAs in pitch deck? Moving on to the next topic, we would be covering what are the types of fundraising available for mainly the startups. Moving on to MSME, we will focus on the topic of external credit rating, the importance and understanding. So we will cover background, names of external credit rating agencies, rating long-term and short-term, what are the different types and how do we interpret or what is the meaning of that? What are the benefits to MSMEs for conducting these ratings? What are the factors which rating agencies consider when they arrive at the rating? And what are the opportunities for CAs in rating advisory? Okay, now starting up with pitch deck. So pitch deck is it is the platform wherein the startups, they convey their idea to the investors. So it is, the platform can be by way of say presentation in PowerPoint or Keynote or any other software. So here the word pitch means sales oriented communication and deck means the presentation. So whatever idea a startup has, the startup, to bring that idea into practice, funds are very important part for his entire journey. So to convey his idea to the investors, it is through this platform, which is pitch deck. Now, let's see why is pitch deck so important, and why do they give so much of focus? Because nowadays, whenever any startup wants to approach investors, be it for a different level of fundings, they communicate only via this mode, which is through pitch deck. So now let us understand. First is communicates the value proposition. What does it mean? That it means that the entrepreneurs will have to highlight the value proposition of their company, and also through this pitch deck, they will have to communicate what is the value proposition of a company and how the idea can solve a real world problem. So here I'll give you one example. There was a startup who had come out with a product. Now I will not disclose the name and not much details about the product. These are the ones which I have handled on my own. So this product, they were catering to agricultural sector, and they had come with a unique product which was towards the climate change. That is, through that product, they were able to reduce dependency of the agricultural or the farmers on the rainfall. So that was a very unique product which he had patented. So the pitch deck should bring about that USP of his product to the investors. So that is what, when we say, communicates the value proposition. Now, the next point, the importance of pitch deck is it facilitates funding. So it is nothing but, similar to any corporate. Now, any corporate, whoever, I'm just trying to link it, like any corporate who wants funds, say term loan or working capital, what do? They give their proposal to the banks. Banks do their entire analysis and then they decide whether to give money or not. Similar logic if we apply to this startup, wherein the startups, they want money, and who are the people who will invest in their idea are nothing but investors. So they will have to bring out their ideas because it is only the idea which they have. So they have to bring that idea in such a way that they convince the investors, and this facilitates funding. Okay, the next point is it builds credibility. How? So, entrepreneurs, they show what happens in the pitch deck. They show their business plan. All the details will have to be brought out, like the business plan, what is the market opportunity for them, what is a competitive landscape. So what happens, the investors, once they go through it, they get a feeling of they feel confident that these entrepreneurs have done a lot of work on their product and they are very confident that their product will grow in future. Now here I will give you one live example. There was a company. Now I'm just giving an example and trying to link it. For example, when this oximeter device was introduced. So oximeter, what happens? That you check the oxygen level in that oximeter. There is a threshold. You know that when the levels are 90 and below, 80 and below, what happens? Immediately there is some oxygen problem, less oxygen supply, and immediately measures are being immediately taken. Now, what happened? One startup had come out with a device. I will not get into that too much of a detail. Now, that device was used to measure some of the parameter. One is there was for a lay person, they did not know, like in oxygen, we know it is 90 and above is good, or 70 and below is critical, something which immediate action has to be taken. So here a layman for that device, they did not know that what is the benchmark or parameter. Second, even if we use that device and we get to know that, that if this level is low, so there is no immediate action which can be taken on it. So the utility of that device, like for example, as I said, oximeter, oxygen device, oximeter device, or blood pressure device. So these are some devices wherein immediately action has to be taken when we know that the levels are lower than the standard levels. So here that device was good, but utility wise, it was not something which immediate action had to be taken, or else it would have been something which is a serious matter. And third was the cost. So the cost for an individual to spend on that device was not very justifiable. So in such cases, when we had a discussion with the entrepreneurs or the promoters, we suggested that the target market cannot be an individual people. Rather than that, it would be better to have a target market which are hospitals or clinics. So here the suggestion was given that even though your model, the product is very good, but that market will be different, because they were looking at market as individual. But this is what, when I say that these are the few things which have to be informed to the entrepreneurs. Next point is it provides focus. So why pitch deck is important? Because it provides focus. So the entrepreneur, through the pitch deck, they have to bring out the clarity, vision of their company. Next is it enables feedback. So when there is a presentation, a live presentation of pitch deck to the investors, there is a immediate response from the investors or the consultants also. And that is a very valuable feedback. Why? Because it helps the entrepreneurs to identify blind spots, to refine their pitch, and also improve the success of their pitch. So whenever these consultants, these entrepreneurs approach the consultants or the investors, they always have to think and give them the positive feedback. Now let us see, when any of the entrepreneur, he wants to prepare a pitch deck. So what are the key elements that should be included in the pitch deck, which we cannot ignore? So the first is company vision and overall value proposition. So this already we have discussed, because it is very important. It forms a key element which has to be included in the pitch deck. Now, this company vision and overall proposition, now don't make it too much of an elaborative or too a long story. See, try to understand, even the people, like the attention span of the people is not too long. So you have to convey your message in a defined time. However, you should not skip important things. So this is very important. I can give you one example, when company vision and overall value proposition. Now, what happened? There was one entrepreneur, and he wanted, his idea was to start data centers for the oncology, for the oncology patients. The value proposition in his pitch deck was not very strong to convey that why is it so, because we had to suggest him a lot of improvement in that pitch deck, because he was straight away comparing himself with his company with the established hospitals. So I would say the business activity of a hospital is very different vis-a-vis the business activity of this person. So accordingly, it had to be modified. Next point, which is very important in a pitch deck, is problem solving. So here, the business idea, the pitch deck presentation, it must address that this business idea is to solve some problem. So they have to give information which demonstrates that the product or service which they are going to offer will be a problem solving product or a service. The third point, which is primary target market. Now, here it is very important to know that what is the target customer, what is the size of that market, potential market. That data has to be very precise, and it should not, a lot of research has to be done on that data. It cannot be a vague data. I'll just give you an example to support that. Now there was one startup. They were setting up an ethanol plant. Now, when we went, they had given everything in detail, like, the cost of the plant and so on and so forth. Now, when we asked them the market, like, which are the market that you want to target? Because ethanol has multiple application. So at that point of time, the promoter was not very clear. He said, since it has wide application, it can be widely, we can get orders from anyone. So that left a very uncertainty when he was looking at the market. Even when we asked him that, how would you approach those, how would you approach the market? Like, if you say that ethanol is used for many purposes, be it pharma, be it fuel energy, industrial application, beverage, whatever. So how do you plan to tap that market? So even that he was not very sure. So he had a product. He knew how to do it, but he did not know which is a market that he has to target. So that had to be made very clear when we had a discussion with him. Next part is solution. So here, what we would suggest is, if that product is live and if he's going for a first round or a second round where the product is already being tested, then in some cases, in this part, which is the solution part, we advise the entrepreneurs to put some video or put some pictures wherein they have they have demonstrated these products. So that is one area where if it is a very niche, it's a very startup, like they have not got any money, then we just have to focus on how it would solve the problem and not the solution. Now comes the business model. So here they will have to give a financials if the company is already into existence. Like I'm just talking about these startups where they have already started with their own funds and they are looking at round one funds. So in such cases, what happens is this particular business model, they can show their past track record. Not too much in detail, but key financials should get captured in that business model. Then comes the next one, which is basic, roadmap, and milestone. This slide, it should give what are the achievements of the product, like the product, if it is already in existence, what were the achievement of the products, and what would be the future path of that particular product? How will that product grow? So when we say how will the product grow means, they may start the product with a regional sales, then they may start having they may have a national sales, and whether that product is capable enough to even move it to international level. So what is the capability of the product? Some products are typically designed only for domestic application, whereas some products have the feature and they can be scaled to international level. So we need to understand basically so that we can accordingly define the roadmap. Then comes the market plan. So here we have to be very clear as to how does the entrepreneur plan to sell the market or advertise his market to the target customers. So that, like as I told you, that ethanol. So ethanol, he was not clear at all how he is going to market the product. Since it had wide applications, still there had to be made him understand that each market has their own dynamics. So if he wanted to cater only to fuel energy, it had a different dynamic. If it was medical or a pharma company, it had a different dynamic. So the dynamics of markets are different, and he should be very clear, because the person who is going to invest money, he cannot tell the person that whatever comes to me, I will sell. He should have a very firm, a clear plan as to how he will reach to the target customer. Then comes the management team. Now here, management team is extremely important. Who are the people who are driving this company, or who are driving this idea? So when we say the management team, it is definitely key parameters, like anybody would look into what is the qualification of the person, what is the experience that person has in the company in which, or in the idea in which he's formulated. I'll give you few examples. It so happened that for the same ethanol, for the ethanol proposal, when we looked at the management background, so one co-founder, he was an engineer, but he had a thorough knowledge. He had worked only in textile companies. Then there was the other co-founder who had done her MA, and she was an HR professional. And the third co-founder was an ex-banker. So no way the investors could get the confidence that this startup was in the right hands, or was to be run by the experts in the domain. So we call it SME, subject matter expert. Also, it so happened that for the oncology data center, when we had a look at the pitch deck, in the management team, they had only given the experience of the co-founders, and they had not mentioned the name, nothing. So when we asked them, they said that this is very confidential. So we said that when you go to investors, these are the few things wherein you have to be transparent. You can't say this is confidential news or confidential information. So you have to be very open and transparent to the investors who are going to put in their money in your idea, or who are going to fund your idea. Then comes the financial projections. As we all know that, finally, whatever money that will come into the company, they will have to give, or they have to build up projections wherein they would see how this company would earn profit or give return on the investments. So here again, I would like to give you one more example. There was a fintech who had come, and their projections were and fintechs are nowadays a hot cake. So he had given a very strong projections. However, these projections were supported or on the assumption that he has got the RBI approval. However, we said that worst case scenario, if RBI approval takes time, then what happens? So our projections, whatever we give, should be realistic. And they should also be realistic, and the assumptions which we make should also be in line with the business. Then comes the competitive analysis. So competitive analysis, like many a times when we were having a look at the pitch deck, the promoter used to say we don't have competition. So that's not true. It never happens that there is no competition. It may happen that, like once in a while, it may be possible that, it's a very niche product which gets patented. But overall, the tendency or the mentality of the promoter is like, I don't have competition, so I don't have to give this data. So that doesn't work that way. We have to keep in mind that there is a competition. Healthy competition is always a good sign. It helps the organization to grow. So this is something which we have to give. Then comes the the very important part is end use of funds. So here, our pitch deck, people who are going to invest money, we have to be very clear on where is that money going. Like, I'll give you an example. There was a SaaS company into SaaS. So they had already got first round of their investment, and this investment was towards the OFS, that is it was offer for sale. So that money went to promoters. Now there was a second round. In second round also they wanted OFS. So then we recommended that, because the investors may feel that in first round, fine, because of the efforts or the sweat equity of the promoters, they have taken the OFS. But again, in the second round, the money is going to OFS. That may not give a very, that may not translate into a confidence among the investors. So these are broad key elements which we have to include in a pitch deck. Now, we have seen which are the key important elements. Now, there are few tips that how to make the pitch deck very effective. So here, what we would suggest, or what I would suggest is be very straightforward. Don't make a presentation too lengthy, not too much of data. Why? Because as I told you, the concentration span of people is not, they don't want to read too much. So be very to the point, precise, and convey your message. So be straightforward and crisp. So you can use, like your data. If the data is too much, what I can suggest is have tables, have diagrams. That becomes visibly better rather than reading the entire thing. So make it in such a way which is very attractive to people, and also it will convey the right message, whatever you want to. Then next is prioritize story over statistics. So here what I would suggest is rather than giving too many, you give numbers, everything fine, but it is always better that you can give real life examples about the products. Like if this is a first round or a second round, your product would already have gone and being tested by few of the customers. So you can give through your story that how you have improved, how you have, solved the problem, or how your product has been well received by those customers. So these things make, through not stories, of course, stories, as I told you last time, that you can have few videos also, or you can have even few pictures also. So through that, you will be able to, the investor also will feel interested in your pitch deck. Then I'm saying the next point is make it a standalone pitch deck. Like, for example, it so happens that many a times after the presentation is done, the investors, they ask for the copy of the pitch deck. So it should not happen that you tell them that, okay, I will give you the report of my, my proposal separately. Your pitch deck should be such that whatever information you want to convey will be in that pitch deck. So unlike, say for example, MSME, when you are giving a loan proposal to the bank, so that is a document which you give to the bank. So here it is a pitch deck initially which the investors will look into. However, they will deep dive into all the details. But it should not happen that you are separately saying that pitch deck to theek hai, I will give you a separate report. No, your pitch deck will be your report. So all information, everything should get covered in that pitch deck. The copy of that will go to that investor, and further due diligence, further information, whatever he needs, he will ask. So that's what I mean by standalone deck, and keep it updated. This is very important because we have seen few pitch decks which there was one pitch deck which was floating last month, but the date of that pitch deck was Jan 25. So immediately when we saw the date of pitch deck being Jan 25, we said that please update the story which has update the story which has happened in the last few months. So these are, I would say, in a nutshell, what are the tips for an effective pitch deck. Now, let us see what are the opportunities for CAs when they, when I'm talking about pitch deck, what are the opportunities or offerings for a CA. So, as I know that, whenever a startup company comes up, so the promoter, he knows his, I would say, as I said, that SME, subject matter expert. So he knows his product, he knows his area very well, much better than us. But for everything, he will need all the, whatever his ideas are, finally it has to translate into numbers. So when there are numbers, CAs come into picture. So this is how, these are the few things which we can help them. One is preparation of the financial statements or projections. Then we can also help them in financial due diligence. Now, financial due diligence means we have to, maybe we have to identify when we prepare the projections, we have identified certain financial risk. So then we also have to provide mitigants to it. So it is not only preparation, but one step ahead, helping him to make improvement wherever, because he may feel that, that only this route would be better. But however, when we look at the financials, we may feel that at this stage, not only completely relying on equity, you may look at the debt. As you grow, you may have a mix of equity and debt. So there are few suggestions which we can always give. Competitive financial analysis. So here, what we can do is we can have it is very difficult rather to have, because a startup, his projections, whatever he may feel that my business will grow XYZ, there will be some competitor in the market with his current numbers. We can just kind of verify whether that the growth, what he's projecting vis-a-vis what is there currently in the market, whether it syncs or not. And accordingly, we can give our suggestions. Then we can also help him to understand or develop the performance metrics and KPI. So we will identify that which are the KPI, that is key performance indicator for his business. We may also help him to track the performance, financial performance through these KPIs. We can also provide valuation services to him, and definitely fundraising and investor communication. So these are broadly the areas wherein CAs can help the entrepreneurs in pitch deck. Because what happens is, pitch deck, the presentation of pitch deck is done by experts, but they don't know what is the content that goes in the pitch deck. So try to understand. It looks the presentation, we may not be, the presentation part and how it looks. So that part is taken care of by the experts. There are people in this field who do it, but what goes into it, that is a gap, it is a gap between the entrepreneurs and the final output which comes up. So there we can chip in and help that it looks good and it is real to move ahead to the investors. So here I have just captured few of the fundraising methods. These are not the only. I have captured just a few. One is the equity based, and there are also grants and subsidies. So fundraising method, and I've also given what it is best suited for. So we have angel investors, who are ready to invest in early stages startups. There are incubators and accelerators who again do investment in early stage startups or even some student startups, equity crowdfunding. So this is when you approach the, like directly the people to chip in their money rather than going for an angel investor. Then a venture capital fund will come in where they will see that this startup can be scalable. There are also government grants and subsidies. So there are government grants, then there are CSR and impact grants and international development grants. So I've also given what it is based suited for, so I don't want to read it. So these are the types of funding. Not only these are not the only ones. I've just given key highlights. Okay, so I think we can take a 5 minutes break, because then we are going to start with MSME external credit rating. So is that fine with everyone? I think. Ravi, we can take a break for 5 minutes?
Yeah, ma'am. Sure.
Okay. We will start. So now we are moving on to the next part, which is for MSME external credit rating. So first of all, we would like to know, when is credit rating applicable? So for MSMEs, credit rating is required when the bank loan are greater than 5 crores. Not only the bank loans, but also if the MSME wants to raise debt from the public market, if they want to raise, say, commercial paper, they want to raise non-convertible debentures. So whenever they want to raise any debt from public market, they have to get rating done. Now, it may not be if, banks, what they do is, they also, before sanctioning the loan, they also do their internal rating. They do the assessment and they arrive at the rating. Generally, banks' internal ratings are always mapped to the external rating. So they have to do it, and it is always there in their policy. So what banks do is sometimes the companies, MSMEs are not rated, but still banks internally, it is compulsory for all banks to do their internal rating. It is covered in their policy and they have the modules in place. But banks, when they are calculating their capital adequacy ratio, at that point, they have to rely on the external rating and not on the internal rating. So even though banks may not, it may not have impact at the time of sanctioning of the loan if the company is not rated, but it will definitely have impact on their capital adequacy ratio if the company is not rated. Okay. Now, always the institutions or always a sector has a regulator. Like example for banks, the regulator is RBI, Reserve Bank of India. Similarly, for rating agencies, the regulator is SEBI. So SEBI has approved some agencies for conducting the rating. So I will read out few of them. These are the only ones. Sorry, not few, but these are the only ones. CRISIL Ratings, CARE Ratings, ICRA, India Rating and Research Private Limited, Infomerix Valuation and Rating, Acute Ratings and Research, Brickwork Rating India Private Limited. In addition to this, RBI through their circular, they have instructed banks to accept the ratings which are conducted by the above rating agencies. There was a news in the past, Brickworks rating, RBI had cancelled their ratings, and after complying to all the norms, SEBI had cancelled the rating. So after complying with all the norms of SEBI, it is reinstituted and it is now a approved rating agency. Okay, now this is very important. What are the types of the ratings and what is the symbols for a long-term rating? Now we come across all the terminologies in rating. So when you say that, these are the symbols which are followed by all approved rating agencies. So AAA is a very good rating and D is a junk rating. So whenever you see any, rating rational or a press release of a company, you will see all these symbols. So always keep in mind, a AAA is a very good, a very stable rating and it moves downwards. So rating definition, I have just taken it from one of the rating agency. So AAA is a rating wherein the company, these are the instruments with the rating which have a highest degree of safety for timely servicing of financial obligation, and these instruments, they carry lowest credit risk. So it is that stronger rating. So when I say, and then the definition accordingly, it keeps on changing as you see the symbols. Now, also when you see a rating, now in a rating industry, BBB is a threshold limit. It is a threshold rating wherein any ratings which are BBB and above are called as investment grade ratings. Any ratings which are BBB and below BBB, that is BB, B, C, D, these are called sub-investment grade ratings. So even India sovereign rating is triple B minus. So we are also in that triple B threshold. Now, below, I have given below this table, you will see there is something called as modifiers. So what is modifier? Modifier are, it gives a direction to the rating. That is, these are modifiers are attached to all the symbols which are between AA to C. So what does it mean? The highest rating, see, interpretation will be highest rating, long-term rating is AAA. Below that would be AA plus. Below that it is AA. Below that is AA minus. Then comes A plus, A minus, and so on. So this plus and minus signifies a better rating. So that plus or minus signs are put across only for symbols between AA to C. For a AAA, you never have something called as AAA plus or a AAA minus. No, it is only AAA. Similarly, D, which is a junk rating, it also does not have T plus or D minus. It is only T. Now, similarly, short term. Now, what is a short-term instrument and what is a long-term instrument? Now, to break down further, instrument means it will have the bank loan, or it can be a commercial paper or any debt which is raised from public market or bank loans. So for all these debts, which are, I would term it as instrument, so these same ratings will apply. So now coming to a short term. Now what is a differentiating factor between a long term and a short term? Long term means any loan which is greater than 1 year, and short term means any loan which is up to 1 year. So the symbols for short-term ratings are slightly different. So here we have A1, A2, A3, A4 and D. So again the modifier. Now here in short-term we have only one modifier, which is plus. So highest would be A1 plus, next A1, below that A2 plus, below that A2 and so on. So only for D, we don't have any modifiers. And rating definition is the same. I have taken it from one of the rating agencies. So if you go on any website and you want to check the rating definition, it's the same. So here, two parameters. One is very strong in symbol A1, the rating definition says it has a very strong degree of safety for timely payment of loan, and it has lowest credit risk. So see the terms which is used. So that's the reason it is a A1 category. Then there are certain, what we have seen is the rating symbols for long term and short term. Now there are few terminologies which are used in ratings. So there is something called as rating under credit watch. So what happens whenever there is some event which may be due to many circumstances which may have impact on the financials of the company, wherein its impact the rating agency is not aware. Immediate impact they don't know. So they keep that rating under credit watch. So I can tell you that there may be instances, like for example, recent example I can give you, RBI had imposed, there were 3 NBFCs on which RBI said they had imposed some restriction on the business. So all the rating agencies, whoever had done the rating of those companies, had put those under credit watch. After RBI was satisfied that they had complied with all the clarifications they had sought, they gave a clearance that they can now go ahead and continue with their business. Subsequently, the rating agencies, they withdrew the credit watch. So credit watch is something which we don't know what impact it may have on the business, which may translate finally into the financials. So those ratings are kept under credit watch. So credit watch can even happen, during cases when there is a merger or acquisition. So in my, I would say a live example was, there was a company which was doing very well. And it was a pharmaceutical company, and it was in A plus category. Long term, it was a A category company. Suddenly, there was a news that they were acquiring a European company. So this was a few years back. So they were acquiring. So we didn't know the impact of that merger. So immediately the rating had to be put on, rating under credit watch. So similarly, there may be instances where we don't know the impact, or the rating agencies don't know the impact, and they put it on the credit watch. So there may be 3 types of credit watch. They may put a credit watch with positive implication, credit watch with negative implication, or with developing implication. So positive implication means if that event unfolds, then it may have a positive impact on the company, and that the rating may improve. Likewise, the other two. Okay. There is also, whenever your or MSMEs, if they say that rating withdrawn, if you see anything of this term like rating withdrawn, what does it mean? The rating agency has withdrawn that credit rating formally, because the reasons may be n number of reasons. Maybe the companies are not cooperating the rating agency for information, or there may be some reason that the loan, if, for example, they have given a rating for a NCD, which is a non-convertible debenture, and that NCD is fully closed. So the rating does not hold good, so they withdraw the rating. So the terminology used is not rating closed. So we say loan closed, rating withdrawn. So the terminology used by rating agency is rating, it is withdrawn. It should not happen that, people mistake this as rating is withdrawn. Why? Because there is a default or there is some distress in that company. No, that may not be the only reason. It may be also because of non-cooperation or lack of transparency from the companies. Okay, now this is very important. We would definitely like to know, when we have to recommend MSME customers, that please get yourself external credit rating done. So before that, it's very important for us to know why. What are the benefits that will accrue to the MSMEs? So first and foremost is there is an improved access to finance. So what happens is, in the financial fraternity, say banks or NBFCs, the moment they know the rating, it gives a kind of comfort, or they know that, this is a disciplined company wherein we, for whatever reason, see, typically it is not that, triple B and above ratings are good. But BB ratings are also not bad. Why? Sometimes, depending upon the size of the company, it is not possible to give them BBB. So they give BB plus. It's a new company and they don't know how the company will move ahead. So they may give BB plus. So, but definitely it gives a kind of comfort to the banking or the finance fraternity when the company is rated. Then better loan terms. So definitely. So what happens is unrated will always attract more cost to the bank or to the financial fraternity. So once you have a better rating, like a AAA rated company will always enjoy better terms compared to a B company. So rating also is a differentiating factor for the better loan terms. Enhanced market reputation. So as I had mentioned that it not only gives access to the finance, but it also enhances market reputation. So your suppliers, your investors, the first thing if they come to know that this is a BBB rated company, an MSME which is a BBB, or an MSME which is an A category company, it immediately builds the confidence among the investors. Or say your not only investors, it can be the suppliers or any business relationship, so on, so forth. Benchmarking tool. So what happens the moment you say that MSME and a AA rated, the kind of, you immediately benchmark that company with the other AA rated customers. Or you may say that it is a, A company and A rated company. So immediately you try to benchmark it that what is the, you benchmark it with the other peers in the, that gives you a kind of comfort or that the company is transparent enough, or this has been, that company has been analyzed in detail and given the rating. So that is one benchmarking tool. Increased investor confidence, which I've already covered in the market reputation. So it definitely gives the investors a confidence, like a triple, even though it is a BBB, it gives a confidence that yes, this company is a investment grade company. If it is a BB also, and it is a newly set up company, also gives a comfort that good. A BB plus rating is also not bad for a small company, because depending upon the size of the company, it has a potential to grow. So even the investors don't take it a view that, it is a bad rating. So that is the kind of comfort which gives to people around. And there are also eligibility for government schemes. So there are some government schemes. It also helps these MSMEs for for eligibility for those schemes. Now, let us kind of understand when we consult a company that you please go for a rating. It is an MSME company and we say that please go for the rating. So as a consultant, it is we should also know few things, that what are the different parameters on which this company will get rated. Otherwise, it will not be correct for on our part also to to give a wrong guidance to the company. And I'll give you one live case. There are many cases in the rating agency when I was working, we came across. So I will just run through when the rating agency, when they are reviewing the company, what are the key parameters which they consider. So I'm just putting bullet points not going into detail because there are a lot of, I would say, detailed deep dive which the rating agencies do. So they do, kind of identify what are the risks, and they provide, and they also try to find out what are the mitigants to that risk. So if they feel that the risk is quite high and there is no mitigant to it, then definitely that counts for a lower rating. So they do consider, one is promoter risk, business risk, financial risk, industry risk, and project risk. So here I will just give you just live examples what would have happened. When we say about the project risk, so there was a company which the company which was a pharmaceutical company, and it was uh, A category company. Now what happened? They had, and it had plants which had approval of US FDA, UK MHRA, supplying to the developed countries. They were setting up a greenfield project. Again, that greenfield project was for US FDA. But the cost of the project was so high that it was almost equal to the tangible net worth of that particular company. So the moment they took up the project, because what happens, there is a lot of time, I would say, these kind of projects, like for getting approvals of US FDA. Once you complete the project, the team from US, they will come, they will check, they will inspect the company, they will give the certification. Once they give approval, only then you can go ahead with the production. So till they get the approval, it was something which the existing company they had to manage from the existing cash flows of the company. So immediately when this project was implemented, the rating underwent change. So there was a downward movement in that rating. So that is a kind of, any of these parameters have an impact on the rating. So one more live case was a company which was setting up a greenfield project, and it was a new company setting up the project. That company, because they had to do the production, the product was fine. It was something which was not so unique, like it was catering only to the domestic market. They were doing it, I would say, a contract manufacturing for someone. So it was not but since it was a greenfield project, considering all the parameters which I have mentioned here, the rating assigned was BB plus. Now what happened when the promoter was, when we had a discussion with the promoter, he said, I don't know because I'm not the expert in finance. My CA will handle it. So we had a discussion with the CA. We explained everything to him. He accepted the rating. And when they went to the bank did not accept the rating because they were the interest rate, what he was looking for, they immediately linked it to the pricing was linked to the rating. And then he came with the CA saying that this rating is not acceptable, now withdraw the rating. But once accepted, you cannot withdraw the rating. So again, I would like to make a statement that normally when the rating agencies, they conduct the rating, they explain the rating rationale, its strength, weaknesses, why they have arrived at the rating very clearly to the key managerial personnel or say the promoter. The promoter has the right either to accept the rating or not to accept. So if the rating is not accepted, they will give in writing and that rating will not be published. They will not say it is withdrawn. They will not publish the rating. However, after the rating is accepted, then it is mandatory for them to publish the rating in the public domain. So that's about it. Now coming to what are the opportunities for CAs in this field. So one is preparation of the credit rating proposal. So whatever proposal has been, which should be sent, CAs can handhold the, they can handhold the MSMEs and prepare a note for the same. Then they have financial advisory. So it is not only preparing of the report, but they can also advise them as to which are the areas where you can have improvement. Liaising with the credit rating agencies. So definitely I have already shown you the names. They can always contact the rating agencies and liaison with their MSME clients. Rating review and appeal support. So if the rating is, they are not accepting the rating, they can always, as a consultant, they can always, after understanding the reason, and if they are not satisfied, they can again appeal the rating and ask them to review it. However, after providing the additional facts, like if the rating is based on XYZ, and if they feel that that XYZ is not correct because those later information were, there was some critical information or a development which happened later, they can always go back to the rating agency with the additional information. Training and awareness. So they have to make their clients, MSME clients, to understand that it is not only the cost which is for the rating, but there are so many benefits or other factors which will help them to be well accepted by the financial fraternity, by the other investors and public as a whole. Compliance and regulatory advices. So here they can always guide them that, banks, if the banks are insisting, or if the bank has put in the sanction letter that it is mandatory to have credit rating. So they have to consult, or they have to make them aware, that this is one of the conditions stipulated by the bank, which cannot be ignored and it has to be complied with. And opportunities with the financial institutions, that is, they can always get employed in rating agencies to understand how this entire process is done. So I think that's about from my side. So I think I'm open for questions, if any.
Please, if you have any questions, you may ask in the chat box. Yeah, so first questions we have received that. How does a pitch desk help in attracting investors or lenders?
What is the question?
How does a pitch deck help in attracting investors or lenders?
No. Can you repeat? It is?
So I think you have already answered that in doing your webinar. So another question is that how does equity financing differs from debt financing?
Equity financing is something which will be, you will dilute your equity. And for debt, it is debt is something which is repayable on demand. Equity is something which is, it straight away goes and dilutes the promoter's equity.
So next question is, ma'am, what is crowdfunding and how it can be a viable option for us?
Okay, crowdfunding, normally what happens is many a times there are the entrepreneurs who don't have even the basic money or finance to start the project. So in such cases, they will have to go for crowdfunding.
Okay, so another question we have received that how can MSMEs approach bank or NBFC for traditional loan?
How can MSMEs approach?
Banks. How can MSME can approach the bank for the purpose of traditional loan?
For the purpose of additional loan.
Traditional loan.
Additional. So MSMEs, I mean, all MSMEs will be having, first of all, I assume that that MSME has a banking relationship. If yes, then those MSMEs will have a relationship manager. They will have to approach a particular relationship manager. If, for example, if there is an MSME who is first time has to approach the bank or has to approach a new bank, they first thing is they can walk to any branch, nearest branch, meet the branch manager, and he will guide you. He or she will guide you.
So another question is, ma'am, what is the revenue-based financing?
Revenue-based financing.
Yeah.
So, see what happens is there are certain businesses which are there are various parameters when you know when anybody wants to enter or the investors want to enter, there are many parameters that they look into. So one of them is revenue based. So they will purely look only at the revenue, and they will give more weightage to the revenue considering the other parameters.
How does a good credit rating benefit MSME in securing loan?
No, can you repeat? It is?
How does a good rating benefit MSME in securing the loan?
As I told you, a good rating, because it happens, you know, like MSME, they never get themselves rated. And if we help them or if we consult them to do a rating, sometimes it may happen they directly fall in A category because the financials are good, their product is good, the business risk is low. So there are industry is good. And what happens, they were also not knowing what potential they had. And suddenly when that company gets rating as A, it immediately opens up a lot of avenues like interest rate, they get a good interest rate, and it adds value among all. Like the entire financial fraternity is open to fund that company. So they don't have to chase the banks. Slowly, banks will chase them.
So how does MSME register or can apply for credit rating?
There are these credit rating agencies. So they can always approach these because it is always there on the web. There are also consultants who are, you know, doing this activity of helping the MSMEs. Like even we do provide the same consultancy, or they can directly go to the rating agency, because what happens through consultants, the only advantage is they help them to bridge the gap between the rating and the because once we go through the financials and other parameters, roughly we will be able to kind of gauge what would the rating be. Or else if they have to approach, then they have all these rating agencies have their websites. They can approach the website. Through the website, they can approach them, or they can call up and they can guide.
So another question is, ma'am, can a MSME improve a low credit rating?
Can an MSME
improve the low credit rating?
MSME improve a low credit rating?
Yeah.
Okay, so is the question like, can the MSME improve if they have a lower credit rating?
Yeah, actually.
Yes, definitely. Yes. That's the reason why I said that these honestly, I'll tell you, and these consultants do guide them in that.
How does equity dilution and valuation impact founder ownership during the fundraising?
One second. How does
equity dilution
and
valuation impact founder ownership during the fundraising round.
during the funding.
Yeah.
See, what happens is when a startup or even MSME for that matter, if they want to go for funding and that to equity, see now try to understand that initially they have started a company with their own funds. Now they want some new person to come in and they need more money. What happens is many a times when they need money, it is not always good to have a debt. Now it can also be equity. So that's the reason I'm saying these uh, your CAs or the CAs can help them or the consultants can help them that if the company has to grow, the company growth will not only be via debt. The company will grow and they will need money for their growth, which will be fuel. That is, equity will be one of the mode. Now, when you want to equity, when you want some new investor to come and chip in money, what happens is the first thing is what is the value of your company. So there comes the valuations, valuers. So they value, there are different methods of valuing. So normally they take the PAT, not only the PAT, they multiply it with some number. The same number they compare it. For example, a company is into textiles. So they will compare what is the text, what has been the valuation of a listed company in that textile industry. Accordingly, they will, and there are many factors for valuation. So once you arrive at the valuation, then you will, as a owner of the company, you will have to say that how much can you dilute. Again, for listing, when you have to go, there is restriction on the dilution also. So that when dilution happens, the money comes into the investor brings in money. Not only that, the investor many a times also comes on the board. So for decision making also he or she comes on the board. So with a new person coming in, so or else sometimes it happens that there are some investors who only invest. They are not in the decision making, they don't come on the board. But there are some investors who very strictly they say that one of our person will be on the board for decision making of the company.
Very nicely explained by you, ma'am. Another question is that are there government incentive or subsidies available for credit rating of MSMEs?
No. So I think slight voices. Repeat.
Are there any government incentives or subsidies available for credit rating of MSMEs?
Government subsidies. There are few government subsidies for some ratings. Those and typically for MSMEs. So I can just maybe give some details later.
Okay. Another is what documentation is typically required to raise fund from institutional investor?
Raise funds from
institutional investors.
What are the documents?
Yeah, what are the documentations that typically required if a MSME want to raise the fund from institutional investors?
Actually, to be very honest, first and foremost is they ask for pitch deck. Second is these institutional investors also do a due diligence. So there is something called as due diligence report. Then they also do valuation. So there are, I cannot, just tell you upfront, but there are a list of documents or there are a list of areas where you need those documents. But to start with, always the first would be pitch deck.
Another is how can MSME leverage co-lending scheme between banks and NBFC?
Co-lending scheme between?
Banks and NBFC.
Yeah, I got it. Again, this is, I would say, more of a bank specific. So, see, what happens is MSME, for example, MSME wants a loan. They approach a bank or they approach an NBFC. So, see what MSMEs should focus on. One is the pricing that they should get. Second is what is the security that they are going to offer, and third would be what are the in the sanction terms are they? It is not like too many of covenants. To decide whether it is a bank or an NBFC co-lending, that is, between the bank and NBFC tie-up.
What are the government grant scheme or subsidies-based funding options available for MSME?
Government grant schemes, there are plenty. I mean, one second, because I won't be able to tell you. There are many, and it is like, how do I share? I even don't know. There is a handbook of the what are the grants available, and also they have identified, like it will be against what. Either you can, I mean, CGT SME is one of them. So there are the government has a lot of guaranteed or unsecured grants. However, the amount of loan will be restricted. You can search on the because I won't be able to tell, because there are plenty. There are many government grants for MSMEs. Karke, if you type, maybe you will get it. There is a handbook with all the details. Pura ka pura details hai.
Another ma'am, how do government-backed scheme like CGT, MSC or Mudra support MSMEs in fundraising?
No, come back.
How do government-backed scheme like CGT, MSC or Amundra support MSMEs in fundraising?
These schemes help in fundraising.
Yeah, actually. How it can be helped in fundraising?
These are fundraising. So these are debt in nature. Huh? So what happens is, how does
they want to ask whether we can take support from Mudra loan for the purpose of MSME, kind of like this question.
It can be. It can be. See, what happens is, if you have to avail these government schemes, there is not too much of a documentation that we have to give. So what happens is, these banks or financial institutions, they have a minimal set of documents which you have to submit, and their verification also is very fast. They arrive at the eligibility and the loan. These are all debt. Huh? These fundraising these are all debt.
The next question is, how does a startup value? Can you give some snippets?
Startup valuation, again, it is, I would say, very case specific. There is no hard and fast rule for valuation. There are different methods, like a company which has not, there is some financial thing which you have to demonstrate to arrive at the valuation. There are many parameters that go into valuation. The product, one is the idea or the product. How niche is that product vis-a-vis the, I would say, one second, how niche is that product vis-a-vis the demand for it? Then can there be a scalability of the product? Like, I can just give you an example. In between, there were a lot of startups into EVs. So out of that, hardly, because not all got funding, because the business model of each one of them were different. So initially, they did well, but later on, the later entrants, it dried up, the funding dried up. So it is again a very, I would say, very case specific. Now, currently, people who are into defense, people who are into these fintechs are the ones who are, people who are into healthcare, clean energy. So these are the ones who are getting funding and valuation. So there are many parameters. The product, the market for the product, scalability. If the financials are not, I would say, when I say scalability in terms of financials. So these are few of the key things I would say, but no hard and fast rule.
Next, what are the exit strategies for equity investor and how do they affect the company?
Yes. Exit strategy is very important. Because not all investors will come to the company and stay there lifelong. So they definitely want to exit, and they definitely IPO is one common area for exiting. Or what happens is second is angel investors when they come in. So they will exit when the VCs come in. So there are different stages, initially startup may if people are coming in, so the larger ones will before, because IPO immediately to hota nahi hai. It takes time for the company to grow and reach the stage wherein they can hit the market. So till then, it is the smaller, because at that initially fund requirement भी छोटी रहती है. Later on valuation जैसे हो जाता है तो the primary angel investors exit, venture capitalist will come in. So जैसे कंपनी आगे बढ़ेगी तो maybe at pre-IPO stage venture capital में exit and pre-IPO people will come in. So ऐसे होता है.
Okay. Next question is, ma'am, how can a strong credit rating help MSMEs secure better interest rate and credit terms?
Yes, as I told you, see what happens is many MSMEs, they don't even know their capabilities. ऐसे they are not, उनको पता ही नहीं है कि rating करना है या नहीं. Example I'll give you, rating ही नहीं था and that company was say interest rate में immediate फर्क पड़ जाता है. Company say was earning interest, banks were charging interest of say 13%. Now ये कंपनी का रेटिंग किया and it was a good company, so A कैटेगरी में आ गई. So immediately ratings में pricing में immediate impact हुआ. Unrated and rated में pricing में immediate improvement आ जाता है.
Yeah. So another is, what is mezzanine financing?
Mezzanine finance, honestly, I don't recollect as of now. I don't recollect.
Next is
mezzanine.
So how does it get solved? I think so. I think all the questions are answered by you, ma'am. So if any participant have any questions, please do let us know. All the questions when that participant has asked, you have all the that all are solved by you. So please do let us know if you have any questions, queries, something you want to ask.
No, sir, there is no any other questions left. I think we have covered all the questions.
So can we close the seminar? I think.
Okay.
Sir, you can start with the vote of thanks.
Yes. So first and foremost, I would extend my heartful gratitude to our speaker, Sri Padmaja Parangesi, for sharing her valuable knowledge and experience. Your in-depth and practical insight have certainly enriched all of us today and will go a long way in guiding our members. I also wish to thank our chairman, Sri Gyanchand Mishra ji, and vice chairman, Sri Arpit ji, for their constant encouragement, support, and leadership in organizing such relevant and meaningful programs. under the MSME Pathshala initiative. A sincere thanks to the organizing team and the technical support staff for ensuring a smooth and seamless online experience for all of us today. Your behind the scenes effort are truly commendable. Finally, I thank you all the participants who joined us from different parts of the country and made this webinar interactive and engaging. Your active involvement is what these programs truly purpose and impact. I encourage everyone to stay connected with the Committee of MSME and Startup ICI for the future sessions and initiative aims at strengthening and empower MSME ecosystem. Once again, thank you all and wish you a wonderful evening ahead. Namaste and Jai Hind.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am. Thank you for wonderful session, ma'am.
Thanks. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you for coordination. Thank you, tech support team. Thank you. Yes, yes. Okay. Tech support team, you can end the meeting.